Hello and welcome back to Model Maker Dave's workshop. Today's video should have been an update for the Jaguar GR1, and it is kind of in a roundabout kind of way, but you will understand as I go further into the video. The state of play on the GR1 at the moment, it is no further forward than it was in the last video that I did. However, in the last video I had said that I got to get some replacement parts from Italieri, and that I'd sent off an inquiry as to see if I could get some parts. At that point I'd not had a reply from Italieri, and to be fair, wasn't expecting one, because when I sent it, it was in that 3 days after Christmas and New Year's, when some people went back to work but not everybody, and said that I probably wouldn't hear anything until the first week back, or the first full week back to work. And sure enough, I think it was either on the Wednesday or the Thursday of that week, I got an email from Italieri. They can't supply parts at the moment due to they're having some extension work or building work or renovation work of some sort going on, that's going to take up until probably the last week of February. So I was thinking of sending off again for those parts, maybe the first or second week in March, just to give it a little bit of extra time. I'm not in any particular rush. It's not a problem, but it did get my mind thinking as to, can I recreate these small parts for myself? And I don't know how well this is going to come up on the camera. Ooh, hang on, hold it like that and it might be better. I've managed to cast some extras for myself. I've got more than this. This is just a few that I've got that were quick to hand, so to speak. So how did I arrive at this, and what did I use to get to this? Well, I've made the moulds from the thermo moulding compound that you can buy, and quite literally all I've done is put the part on top and then used the flat end of my tweezers to press it in, and then it also gives me a flat surface so that I can wipe across when I put the stuff in. Now, the first thing that I tried, which I thought was going to work, and I still think it might do, I tried some of this Vallejo's plastic putty, and to be fair, it did kind of work, albeit that I think I took it out of the mould too soon. I think it could have done with being left in the mould for another 12 hours, because when I took it out, it was formed into the part. It was the shape of the part while it was in the mould. When it came out, it was slightly bent because the plastic putty hadn't fully cured in the mould. I thought I'd given it enough time, but I don't think in the long run, I don't think I did. So I still think this will work. I just think you need to give it 36 hours. It just didn't seem to cure very well, or unless there's something in this that doesn't like this, the way that this compound is made up. I don't know. I'd rather think it was the former rather than the latter. I think it was me taking it out too soon. So we will have another go with that at some point. My next thought was to use some green filler thinned with some Revell contactor, which some of this stuff. Yeah, it worked, and it did look rather good, but it got to the point when taking it out of the mould, it just snapped in half. Yes, it moulded, yes, it worked very well, but the actual part was so brittle that trying to take it out was almost impossible. And then there was just no way it was going to come out in one piece. So I thought I'd have a go with some of this, just straight from the tube to the mould, and pretty much got the same result. Yes, it went in, yes, it moulded, yes, it cured, and yes, it snapped when it came out. So 3 failures really. And then my mind clicked over and thought, well, why don't I use sprue goo? You know, we've all got sprues, we've all got liquid cement. All you need is a glass jar, and away you go. And that's what I've used here. What these are is sprue goo. Just put in the moulds, left for parts these size. I've left them in the mould for 12 hours, and they come out all right. On this one that I've got here, that I'm experimenting with a couple of halves of jerry cans from 1/48 scale, and I've got a couple of sides of jerry cans in here for 1/35. And in this one, it's another 1/35 scale jerry can, but it's a 2-part mould. So all I've done is moulded it, put it back together again, and then poured the sprue, the goo, yeah. And look, I don't know if you can see, but it does look okay. I'm going to leave it in there for, might think about taking it out tomorrow night after I come home from work. I'm just going to leave that, let it do its own thing in its own time. I'm not in any particular rush. And you're probably wondering why I've got sprue goo everywhere. Well, it was something that I learnt on here, that if you just did enough for the part itself, you did get a little bit of shrinkage. And when trying to pick the part out, if you was a little bit too overzealous, part would come out and part would disappear, never to be found again. So I kind of found that by putting too much on, and for want of a better description, having the whole area covered, giving me what I've got here is as flash. When lifting the flash, it also took the part out at the same time, and there was very little stress on the part as it came out of the mould, thus making what we've got here. So in this case, where everybody would snarl and say rude words about flash, in actual fact, in this case, flash is very much your friend, for removing parts. And yeah, you trim it off, and then whatever you trim off, you put back in the pot, and it'll dissolve down, and you can start using it again. But what I found to start off with, when I first started doing these, yes, I got some shrinkage, so I made the sprue goo even more goo by putting more sprue in and making it really not quite thick but very stodgy, and that cut down on a certain amount of shrinkage. But as you can probably see in these, there is a little yet, and you can see this is still very soft, so these are going to take a long time to go off, but there is a small amount of shrinkage here and here. Now you could say that what I'm trying to do, it's not working, but when you take these out and turn it around, because of what I've got here is smaller versions. These are 1/76 scale jerry cans that have come out okay. You could use these on the side of a vehicle. You could stick them together to make a line of jerry cans. I know some of them have got some air bubbles in them because it didn't come out, the air didn't come to the surface fast enough. But you can use that to your advantage. You can use them as bullet holes and use the can as it's been left behind because it's of no use to man nor beast because it's got holes in it. You could use it as a can that has been tossed away and Mother Nature has started eating away, and you can make the holes look rusty. So yeah, you could say that it's not a perfect way of making parts. It's not. It's a cheap, simple way of making parts that you can use on the side of vehicles in a diorama, and you can make them look beaten up and kicked about. If you really want to have proper good parts, then you're going to have to use where's it gone? There it is. You're going to have to use something like this. This is something that I made up earlier for using with 2-part resin. But then not everybody can afford to go out and buy a resin kit to have the latex, to have the 2-part resin, or they just haven't got the time. This stuff is about 7 or 8 quid. You get, I think it's about 10 bars of it in a pack, 8 or 10 bars. Once you've bought this, you put it in boiling hot water. You could use it again and again and again, whereas that, I can only ever use it for making those 3 items. This stuff I can take off of these bits of card because all I've done is stuck it on there with a bit of double-sided sticky tape, put it back in a boiling hot water, and then I can use it to make other parts. So it's a cheap way of doing it. We all, as I said, we've all got kits that have got sprues in them that eventually will, some of them will, or some parts of them will be thrown away because all we do is we tend to go for keeping the straightest, cleanest bits. But in actual fact, the corners and tabs and the other bits you can put in a pot and dissolve it down with some liquid poly, and you've got some sprue glue, and then you can do something like this. So yeah, it's a cheap, simple, quick way of casting something. All right, with these 1/48 and 1/35, I'm not sure if they're going to work, to be fair. I'm a little bit more confident with the 48th because it's not as big as 1/35, but it's a little bit bigger than 76. But 35th scale, yeah, it might be a stretch too far. But then if this does fail, all they do is come out of here and they go back in the pot and I can use it again. So I've not lost anything. If I'd done this with resin and it hadn't worked, I would have lost those bits. I would have lost the resin that I'd used. So or you could use it for a test run before you did a resin cast, just to make sure that you got everything right. So I'm not saying it's the be all and the end all. I'm not saying it's the best thing. I'm not saying it's better than sliced bread or anything. But if you're in a hole and you need some parts, or you need some extra bits for diorama, then this could be a way forward for you. Just if it's 48th scale or 35th scale, you're going to need to leave these for 24, maybe 36 hours. Excuse me, may even be a little bit longer. But if it's 72nd or 76th scale, you're looking at about 12 hours on average. And this is what I mean by when they come off of here, it's, yeah, you got a bit of flash and spider in and whatnot, but turn them over and you've got parts that you can use. Just quick clean up and you're done. So it might be something for some of you. Some of you might think, no, I ain't gonna do that. But as I said, if you need some extra parts just to liven up a military vehicle or a tank or something, this might be something that you want to consider, because it's pretty much easy. The only thing you've got to get is some of this stuff. Once you've got this, happy days, you're away, because you've got plenty of sprue, you've got plenty of glue. Even if you haven't got a clean one like this, you can use an old paint one, just clean it out and you're off and running. Or sticking, or gooing, up and gooing, he says. And you can do your colours, like that is a putrid, pukey coloured green. Or I've got boring grey at the moment. Yeah, I think actually looking at the state of that, I think I'm going to have to put some more poly in there. I think it is moving around, but it is very slow. There is a lump. There is a bit of a lump in there at the moment. That is because when I tried to do the 48th scale jerry can, I took one out and I took it out way too early. It was way too soft. Did try to put it back in, but didn't get it lined up properly and just really sort of mucked it up. But it was worth it because I learnt something. I learnt that it wasn't going off as quick as what I thought it was. So going back to the GR1, yes, it's still in the box waiting for those two aerials to go on the nose. I think I've now got enough that I can try and put them on. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, how is he going to stick these bits on to the aircraft? I thought about that myself, and I thought about using white PVA glue, and then chose against that, or decided to go against that, because PVA, yes, it works and yes, it does hold, but it's not a particularly strong bond. I then thought of everybody's friend super glue, and I thought, yeah, but then you'll instantly think, oh, I haven't got a lot of time, and you start rushing, and it never ends well with super glue and small parts. So my thoughts started turning to this stuff. I've used this before and it does work very well. It's not a poly. I don't know what it is, to be fair, but It's used by people to make jewellery, watch repairs and various other things. You get a needle nose so that you can get right in to where you need to. Dries clear. Takes, depending on how much you use, 12 to 24 hours to go off. But this stuff gives you a stronger bond. So I'm thinking of using this, because if you use liquid poly on these parts, because they're so small and it's what you've made these from is old sprue and liquid poly, I think there could be a reaction and they will just dissolve and you're just going to end up with a horrible sticky lump on the side of an aircraft or whatever part you've made and you've put on. So I think something like this will work much better. You can get this off of eBay. I think there's about £4 or £5 a tube, but well worth having in your armory of glues, because it does come in handy. And you can also use that for clear parts and canopies because it doesn't fog up. I think I'm fast coming to an end on this one. I hope some of you find this of interest. And I can go back to finishing off the GR1. I think by the time they go on and it's been painted, and if you didn't know, you would never know that the parts have been recreated. So it leaves me to say thank you very much for getting this far, and thank you very much for watching. If you haven't done so, then please subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.